virtually just a barrier. So if it's yeah, what do you want it for? And it's like, oh, well, I want to have, like, sometimes things boil down to, I want to have peace, I want to have joy. And it's like, well, okay, well, just have those things. You don't need to put all these obstacles between you and the experience.
Hi, this is Tim Westbrook. Welcome to I Love Being Sober. We talk about life in recovery, mental health, biohacking, alternative therapies, and everything related to living a kick-ass sober life. So let's dig in. Today on I Love Being Sober, I'm honored to welcome someone who's devoted decades of her life to helping others rewrite their stories around addiction and recovery. Arlina Allen is a certified life and sobriety coach and hypnotist, founder of Sober Life School, host of the award-winning The One Day at a Time Recovery podcast, and author of the 12-Step Guide for Skeptics. With more than 30 years of sobriety, she's guided hundreds of busy professional women away from drinking, even those who thought traditional recovery wasn't for them, helping them build a life they truly love. Arlina, welcome to the show. I'm really excited to have you. I'm excited to dig into your journey, the work that you do, and how to make recovery feel real and doable for skeptics.
I'm so happy to be here. This will be fun.
Yeah, this should be fun. I was referred to you by Mary Tilson.
Yeah.
Sun and Moon, and she says great things about you. So I'm excited to get to know you a little bit more.
I love Mary. The fun thing about doing podcasts is you get to meet all these really cool people doing really cool things. And she and I have stayed friends over the years since we met. And she's got a great podcast.
Yeah, 100%. So you've been sober since 1994. Can you tell us what your rock bottom looked like?
We're just going to go right for the jugular. Yeah. I mean, so my rock bottom happened probably, it's kind of hard because I kind of skipped along the bottom for a minute. You know what I mean? So like I had a really bad night and that involved blacking out and embarrassing myself in public, and some physical violence towards my sister, the police. And that was like, oh, maybe I have a problem. That was like the beginning of really thinking, oh, am I an alcoholic? What does make somebody an alcoholic? That's when I started asking the questions, and it just seemed like the questions led to more questions. And I tried to moderate for like 2 years.
Okay.
And I finally came to the conclusion. I was just exhausted, burned out, sad, depressed. And, I had sort of that moment where, you stand at the abyss and you look into the darkness, and it's, you're either going to jump or you're going to do something different. And right around that time, I met these 2 guys that were sober and in 12-step recovery. And they had been sort of sprinkling in a little wisdom over the course of our relationship. I was in an outside sales position, and they were 2 of my clients. And, we'd go to lunch and stuff. They wouldn't drink, but I did. And I would start asking them questions. So they started like sprinkling in all this little wisdom, and we became friends. So when I was finally ready, these 2 guys, Mitch and Randy, who were fine, upstanding members of the 12-step program, they kind of ushered me in and quickly handed me over to the women, which was nice. So, but they were sort of giving me these ideas that were revolutionary to me. Like, if you keep doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result, like that's insanity. Keep doing what you're doing, keep getting what you're getting. And I was like, oh my God, you're right.
Yeah. So smart. Right.
Yeah, these little bits of wisdom that were like blowing my mind.
Right.
And so that was kind of like, rock bottom to entry is kind of how it went down for me.
And is that your sobriety date?
April 23rd of 94. So it actually took me 60 days to get 30. So about 30 days in, I think I smoked a little weed. Here's the funny thing. On my 25th birthday, I had my last drunk.
Okay.
And I woke up the next morning so hungover. And I was in this relationship with this guy that I thought was like my ideal. And I knew I was losing that relationship due to my drinking.
Mhm.
And I just remember waking up the next morning and looking at him and just being like, "I'm never gonna drink again." And then I took a big bong hit.
Okay,
You
okay.
know?
And
And so by the time I showed up to the rooms of the, 12-step, I hadn't had anything to drink for, like, 5 months.
okay,
But,
okay.
so, yeah, it was messy, but I find that most people's bottoms are a little messy, so,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's interesting how before we get sober, we don't know anybody. We don't realize how many people are sober.
I didn't know anyone that was sober
I
except
didn't
my
know anybody.
boring, mean parents.
Yeah, right, right. I didn't know anybody that was sober, and then as soon as I get sober, it's like my whole world, everywhere I go and everything I do, I see people in recovery because you attract what you are, and so that's kind of who it does. I mean, literally, it doesn't matter where I go. I can go to coffee, I can go out to eat, I can go to a game, I can go to a concert. I see sober people everywhere I go, and I used to
Seek and you
attract.
shall find.
Right,
That's the
right.
thing.
It's like I used to attract all the drunks. I used to attract all the people doing cocaine. I mean, next thing you know, I remember I was at a show in San Francisco. Paul Mooney. He's a comedian, and he was at I think the Fillmore in San Francisco. And I remember going into the restroom, and there's one person. He's like, "Hey, man, do you want some blow?" And I'm like, "Of course I want some blow." I mean, like doesn't happen to me now. You know what I mean? It's
Hasn't happened to me once since.
right, right, exactly. It just doesn't.
In 31
And
years, that has never happened to me.
yeah, it's like I remember that kind of stuff. It just speaks to you attract what you are. It's like that energy you put out there.
Yeah, law of attraction is a thing for sure.
It is. So 25 years old is when you got sober. That's your sobriety date.
I
Okay.
got sober I quit drinking November
Uh-huh.
and then didn't get sober until April of the next year.
Okay. Okay.
So it was like 5 or 6 months without alcohol before I quit everything. I was on the back in the day, they called it the marijuana maintenance
Oh
program.
yeah, they still call it that. I mean, I
Yeah,
think
they
they
still
still call it that. I think they still call it that. But the marijuana these days is so potent that it's just. I mean, my understanding, it's like when we were, back then. I think the marijuana was like 7 or 8% THC or something like that, and now it's like 80% or something, or 90%. I mean, they can make it
Yeah.
so strong. It's like not even the same thing.
Yeah, it's triggering a lot of, psychosis because it's so intense now. Yeah, something I don't have to worry about.
I don't
But you
have
know
to
what's
worry about it.
interesting, though?
Uh-huh.
You know what's interesting, Tim, is this idea of, harm reduction,
Mhm.
which is, there are some people that are, like, on heroin and maybe smoking a little bit of weed helps them not do heroin. I'm like, "Okay, cool, do
Yeah.
that." I'm not about, living there, like, let's continue to progress,
Right,
but
right.
who am I to judge? Do what you gotta do. But, for me, I didn't count my sobriety until I quit, drugs and alcohol.
Right, right. Yeah, I mean, I think, you bring up a good point, which is that everybody's journey looks different, and my journey, I got sober, and when I got sober, I was sober from all substances. Although, I was still taking Vyvanse or Adderall as prescribed, but then I got off of that, like, a month after I got sober. But, for a long time, I own a sober living, and we used to not let people come in that were on methadone or, not methadone, Suboxone.
Suboxone?
Yeah, Suboxone. And, things have just changed. There's things that harm reduction, and there's things that everybody's journey looks a little different. And just because my journey didn't look that way doesn't mean that it's not a journey that can work for somebody else.
Yeah.
And there
Sobriety is so crazy because everybody has a different set of variables, right? Different set of traumas, different set of family situations, money. I mean, there's so many variables contributing to where somebody is starting
Mhm.
and what they're using. And yeah, I agree with you. There's no two sobriety stories that are journeys that are really identical.
Yeah, there's a guy named Brandon Lee. He says, "I've been in recovery since." So he doesn't talk about his sobriety date because at 11 years sober, he had a slip. And he was going to meetings, he was sponsoring, he was doing the deal, and he had a slip, and it was like a 6-hour slip or an 8-hour slip. And he's like, "You're telling me that I got to start over?" So he just says, "I've been in recovery since whatever the date is." And so he doesn't say my sobriety date is. He just says, "I've been in recovery since," which I think is actually a good, because a person that's been in recovery for 11 years is different than a person that's been in recovery for 90 days.
Yes.
They're not,
Yeah.
they're on their journey, in my opinion, anyways. They're on their journey. They've been on their journey. You can't tell me that they haven't learned anything that has helped them get closer to the life that they really want to live. That's just my.
And really, at the end of the day, that's what we're talking about, is getting closer to the life that you want to live.
How did going from a life of drugs, alcohol, and sex to long-term sobriety shape who you are today?
How did it shape who I am today? It's so funny because I thought labeling myself as an alcoholic or an addict was like the worst thing ever. But it turns out that that's actually now my superpower, right? Like being able to say that, yeah, I've recovered from addiction. I've recovered from alcoholism. And I love sharing how I did that, right? Like that's really sort of defined who I am in a lot of ways, but in a more empowering type of way. Like, oh, I had the resiliency or whatever. Like sometimes I don't know what it is. Like, I don't know why some people stay sober and some people don't. Like, I've seen examples of people who really try really hard that don't get sober, examples of people who do things that are very morally questionable and they stay sober. And I'm like, I don't get it. I
Yeah,
really don't.
you just don't know who's going to stay sober. It's crazy.
Yeah, it really is. It's really baffling to me, but it really shaped my identity in so many ways, and it kind of put me on this path. It kind of gave me purpose,
Hmm.
and it gave my life meaning. And I found that I have this, desire to try to figure out how people tick. And it just is something like working with other people is something that really lights me up. Like when I'm in the present moment with someone else, you see the lights come on, or you're able to share compassion with somebody and you watch people get better and change their lives. It's like, really, I don't know anything else that is better. Like, it's my favorite high, to be honest.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That and Netflix.
Yeah. What's your favorite show on Netflix right now?
Oh my god. I'm really excited. Well, I don't know about Netflix. I'm really excited that, Mad Men is back on HBO, and we're like Game of Thrones fans,
Are-
so we always watch Game of Thrones at night as our bedtime story, but we're gonna dive into, Mad Men.
okay, it's Mad Men. Is it? They don't have a new season, do they?
No, no.
Okay.
Yeah, that whole series was completed, but yeah, I'm such a TV junkie, it's not even funny.
Are you watching the Diddy documentary?
No, I can't do stuff like that, it kinda grosses me out, like,
Yeah.
it's
Ooh,
it
there's some stuff. I've watched a couple of episodes, and there's some stuff I didn't know. I was like, ooh, wow, okay. We won't
Yeah,
get
there are
into it.
things I've just come to accept that there are certain things I don't need to know. Like, I don't watch the news. There's nothing I can do about it. And if it's important enough, I end up hearing about it. So I do need to sort of protect my psyche in certain ways,
Yeah.
like what goes in also comes out. So
Well,
there's certain
yeah,
things that drain my energy. And
yeah. It's stuff that's energy draining, and it's speaking to your subconscious mind. And what do we have? 90,000 thoughts a day, or no, 50,000 thoughts a day, and 90% of them are subconscious. And whatever you put into your mind,
yeah,
it's like your subconscious mind is reciting those thoughts. And what do we have? 90% of the thoughts I had today are the same thoughts I had yesterday.
exactly.
So it's
Yeah.
like what we put into our mind is so important.
Yeah. Yeah. We're essentially just living Groundhog Day.
It is. It is. We don't think we are, but we are. Yeah.
We are. Yeah.
Yeah. So early sobriety, let's talk about early sobriety. It can be brutal. What are some of the hardest internal challenges you faced when you first got sober, and how did you navigate them?
Good question. I mean, I had so much fear, right? Like everything was different when I first got sober. I had actually kind of burned through all my friends and relationships. Mom and dad and my sister were sort of, they sort of have to be there for you. And so
Yeah.
when I got sober, I went back to living with my mom, and my sister lived with her. And, I had a pretty good relationship with my parents and stuff, but I had to start from scratch. So things like emotion management. When I first got sober, the one thing that really worked to help me manage my feelings was gone, right? Like I
Mm-hmm.
had been
Yep.
smoking a lot of weed. And so I was like comfortably numb, as Pink Floyd would say. And so having to feel all my feelings was really challenging. And I think the one saving grace I had, it was kind of funny. It was like my self-centeredness. I like talking about myself, obviously. And
Right.
so,
I can relate.
yeah, right. Podcast host. Yeah. So I was going to these meetings and they were like, oh, get a bunch of phone numbers and start calling people. And I was like, I don't want to bother anybody. And they're like, no, 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 you don't understand. Like when you call somebody, it gives them an opportunity to be of service. And service is one of the things that helps people stay sober. So if you call somebody and ask for help, you're actually helping them because they get to be of service to you. And I was like, sign me up. So I got a bunch of numbers. I get stressed out. I call people and these ladies would pick up the phone and we'd talk and I would get to just talk about what was going on for me. And then I was receiving, I had some really cool women in my life that would do things like when I call, they'd say, oh, did you just want to vent? Do you need feedback? What are you looking for? And I was like, oh my God, I didn't
Yeah.
know I had a choice. Like I didn't know that was a thing.
This is not like the conversations I used to have with my other friends.
No. I mean, communication skills were something really important for me to learn. And I was beginning to learn
Right.
emotion management, communication skills, but talking about what was going on with me was what, like, it helped me to process out loud. And then I would get new information and context, perspective, and, people would talk you off the ledge kind of a thing. So I think that was, the problem was like, I didn't know what to do with my feelings, but I did have this solution where I was able to call people and talk to people. And they helped me to learn how to manage my emotions. So that was big in the beginning.
Right. Let's talk about Sober Life School and who the site and who she helps. What
Well,
motivated you? Yeah.
Well, it was funny because, so I've been sober for 31 years,
Okay.
and somewhere along the line of, so I was a account executive in the tech world. I was in sales for a long time, and I always had like this feeling like God did not put me on this planet to sell software. Like the money was really good, but it was like breaking my soul. And the one place that, like, the things that really filled my cup and gave me a lot of energy was working with others. And so right around COVID time, and that's what I was going to say is manifestation is a thing. I had gotten a coaching certification, and that year my laptop password was new job 2020. And then COVID hits and I make more money than I've ever made in my entire sales career. I was selling VPN, which is virtualized private network. So virtually every customer I had to make a purchase. So I
Yeah.
made a ton of money. And then that company was acquired. Everybody got laid off. And then I had this huge severance package. So it was like, oh, this is the time when I'm going to be able to like start this purpose driven business of Sober Life School.
Right.
Right. I had been doing the podcast for a long time. I started that in 2016. That's kind of a crazy story. But I had the podcast and I knew I wanted to be focusing in this area of helping people. There are certain people who just will not go to meetings. They're not going to go to AA. They don't have time to go to rehab. And I really wanted to service this demographic of people. And I realized that I used to say I help women, but now half my clients are men now.
Okay.
So I don't know what that's
Okay.
about. And half of them are not interested in quitting drinking. They're sober or they are struggling with like work-life balance, like life issues after
Yeah.
sobriety. But that was really sort of like Sober Life School came from this place of I needed to be authentic in how I spent my time. Like I felt like I was living a double life working in tech, but really had a passion for helping other people. And so it took a while to like let go of that identity of account executive,
Mm.
Silicon Valley salesperson, like let go of all that and step into this other version of like this newer version, more authentic version of myself. It was scary, but yeah, it's been like 5 years since I did that and I don't regret it for one second.
You started your podcast in 2016.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
So it was funny because this is
That was
actually
like
my
early days of podcasting, kind of.
yeah. It was a while ago, and I had been a huge Tim Ferriss fan. He
Yep.
has
Okay.
this, yeah, and he was like angel investor. I was in the startup world, so I was like working at a company that was funded by Sequoia, which is a really big venture capitalist firm, and I was listening to Tim Ferriss, and he's all into the Silicon Valley venture capital world, and I was like, oh, let me do a podcast on sales from a woman's perspective because there wasn't a single one of those.
Okay.
Right? So I did that, but it was really on my heart to do one around sobriety.
Yes.
But, back then there were not a lot of other I think there was only like maybe 2 or 3 other podcasts that I could point to that were sort of talking about that. I was deathly afraid that my 12-step community would shun me or criticize me. If you're 12-step oriented, tradition 11, I think it is, like you maintain personal anonymity at the level of press, radio, and film.
Mhm.
And I was confusing talking with sobriety and breaking my anonymity with the 12-step. Like I've never come right out and said, I'm a member of Alcoholics Anonymous. I mean, it's a thin veil, like we all get it. Nobody's
Right.
confused.
Yeah.
But do you know what I mean? Like I thought I was going to be shunned by my community.
Yeah. No, I
But
understand.
then, yeah, but then something happened. I was going to a 6 a.m. meeting. It was actually a pretty big meeting. And I'm going there probably at least like 5 days a week. Like that's how I would start my day. And when you go to a meeting at 6 a.m. and there's a bunch of professionals, like people are very serious about their sobriety if you're showing up at 6 a.m., right?
Right. Yes.
Yeah. So I loved this group. And there was a gal there that I had known for years. Her name was Gina. And Gina and she was just probably like maybe 6 months older than me. She kind of looked like me. I'm half Hispanic and she's Hispanic and dark hair. We kind of looked similar. And I had watched her go from like this really angry woman to like this beautiful woman. She graduated college. She had really worked on a lot of her stuff. She's so much softer and loving and in a really good place. But I didn't realize that she had been suffering with chronic headaches and things. And so she wasn't sleeping and she was sleep deprived. And anyway, I wasn't at the meeting that morning. I was working at that startup job that I was telling you about in far away. So I was at work at 5:30. So I'm an early riser,
Mhm.
obviously. But anyway, I didn't go to the meeting that morning. And about halfway through the morning, I get this panic phone call. And it's this gal that I sponsor. And she's like, oh my God, Gina was in an accident and she died and blah. And I was like, that can't be right. She was just at the meeting. But she had been in a single car accident, a fatality. And I just broke. I saw myself in her. And she had just graduated this program and it was like her whole life was ahead of her. And I couldn't help but wonder, what dreams died on her heart. Like she didn't get to live out her dreams, right? And I had this dream on my heart to do this sober podcast, and death has a way of sort of clarifying the BS.
Mhm.
And I was like, whose permission am I waiting for? Like if this was like it felt like an inspiration, like God put this desire on my heart, and who is I to say no? And there was something about that I was like, in memory of Gina, I'm going to take the leap and do this thing.
Okay.
And so it's been, yeah, since 2000. I started it. She died in September, and I started it. Wait, is that true? I started it in June of 2016. So I'm not 100% sure when she passed, but anyway, it was right after that.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you're still rocking it?
Still rocking it every week. I have been so consistent over the last, I would say, at least 7 years. I'm publishing weekly. Yeah, so we're up to 407 episodes now.
Wow.
408,
Wow.
something like that.
Good work. Good work.
Thanks. Yeah, it's been amazing. It's been so good.
Yeah, it's so cool. I mean, I love it as well. I love getting to talk to people and learning more about them, more about their story, and so forth. So I want to learn a little bit more. Now, is your podcast all about sobriety, or tell me about your podcast?
So it's interesting because right around episode 400, so I'm a recovery agnostic kind of gal. Like for me personally, I like 12 steps and. Like I like to try all of the things. I'm kind of recovery promiscuous. I'll try all the healing modalities.
I'm with you. I'm the same. Yeah.
Yeah, right? Like I've come to the conclusion a long
Recovery
time ago.
promiscuous.
Yeah, I just thought that was kind of funny.
Yeah.
Maybe at 57, doesn't have the same impact. But anyway, I just thought it was kind of funny to say
Yeah,
that.
that's great.
But I do like to try all the modalities, right? There's so many ways of helping to unlearn or heal either negative patterns or releasing negative beliefs and really adopting new ones, right? Like you always need a sufficient substitute. Everything is really a trade-off, right? You let go of these limiting beliefs or part like identity labels that don't fit for you anymore to step into new ones, right? So yeah, I forgot what your question was, but I do talk about
You're telling me about your podcast.
I talk about all kinds of different things, mostly around psychology, healing, mental health. It's, largely focused on, the first half of the podcast is usually somebody's recovery story. And then the second half is on the solutions. But I have interviewed many experts, New York Times bestsellers, highly credentialed doctors who share a specific modality. I interviewed Dr. David Spiegel, who was like the foremost expert on hypnosis. He was spent 40 years at Stanford in the mental health, the psychiatry department. He was like the chair of the psychiatry department for like 40 years, something like that. And he didn't have issues, but it was so interesting to sort of dive into that topic. So, and I have been branching out a little bit. Like after 400 episodes, I was like, I can't do another tragedy to triumph
Right.
title.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. So I have been branching out just a little bit. I interviewed this guy recently. He wrote a book called Uncomfortable Either Way,
Okay.
which really fits in with recovery, right? It's like if you're going to be in pain because you're using or in pain because you're trying to get sober, if you're going to be uncomfortable either way, you might as well choose the path that's going to have a reward at the end instead of regret.
100%. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And you're sober life school or sober life school, and mine's I love being sober. And it's not just people that are in recovery; it's living my sober life. And
Yes.
and so it's all of the things. What I have meditation, breath work, just naturopaths. I talk about peptides. I mean, like all of the different things. There's so many different things. It's just, what do I do? And my sober lifestyle. So anything that kind of fits my sober lifestyle, like that guest, I would think is going to be a good guest. So they don't necessarily have to be in recovery. And when I first started, it was more people that were in recovery. But today it's just my sober lifestyle and what are the things that a person in recovery can do, and what's going to be helpful. And what are the things that I do in my life that's sober today?
What's so interesting is I really appreciate that you are solution focused. Right? Solution focused. And what I have noticed, I'm sure you've noticed this in the sober podcast universe, let's say, is that the podcasts that actually have really high ratings and big download numbers and all that stuff, they're all focusing on the salacious problems, right? Like it's really interesting. The sober accounts, like on TikTok or Instagram or whatever, it's the people who are brand new, who are crying. They're like sharing, really vulnerable and sharing the gritty aspects, like Dopey. Dopey is a really popular podcast that focuses on drug addicts, and people come on there and just tell the most horrific stories.
Yeah.
Right. And I think people are just it's like a train wreck. You can't look away. And
there's a guy named Roy Williams, famous copywriter, and I went to one of his events, and he says people are attracted to drama, conflict, and comedy.
There it is.
And so talking about the solution might not as many people want to, it's not as entertaining. So it makes sense.
Yeah,
it's
true. But listen, I just can't live there. I can't live in the problem.
No, I don't want to live there. I mean, I do love talking about the solution. And you said something, it's when people live in the past, and one of the things that I started saying right when I got sober is I don't drink. It's not,
Mhm.
I'm trying to quit drinking. It's not,
Yeah.
I just got to make it through, one day at a time. I just got to make it through today. I just got to make it to 30 days. I just got to you can only do that for so long, in my opinion.
Yeah. You
And
gotta evolve.
yeah, and it's, I don't drink. And saying I don't drink makes it much easier. It's like it's the energy that you put out there.
Yeah. It's so funny? So I don't really talk about like, it doesn't even come up where I have to say I don't drink.
Right.
I talk about what I do. Like, I am a creative person. I'm a connector. I'm a seeker. I actually started a third podcast called Self-Help Junkie because I was like, just love I like talking about the solutions, but what I realized was missing was sort of like the actions and the outcomes. And so that podcast was sort of focused on, well, what is the problem? What are the solutions? Like, what are the practical action steps? And then let's run the experiment and come back on the next episode and talk about what was our experiences running taking action, like
Mhm.
running the experiment. Because I'm by nature sort of like a skeptic. So I need to sort of like run the experiment myself and have my own experiences. So yeah, that was a fun project. But
Yeah.
yeah, I like the solutions.
Are you a Joe Dispenza fan?
Huge.
I just went to his 10-day in
Oh,
Cancun.
did you? I'm so jealous.
It
Where'd
was
you go?
in Cancun.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was out of this world. We did walking meditation. I mean, pretty much every morning started at 6 a.m. with a walking meditation, when it was dark and by the sun came up. And so it was so good. Have you ever been to one of his retreats?
I have not. So the funny thing about Joe Dispenza, he's got a great rap. I love what he's doing. I have a friend who's a neuroscientist,
Uh-huh.
and I was like, hey, can you check out this guy, validate his stuff? Because he's always talking about doing brain scans and studies and this and that. And I asked her to check him out. She's like, it's so weird. I can't find any peer-reviewed journal papers on his work. I was like, kind of burst the bubble for me a little bit, but then it's what he's saying is so I get it. And I love the idea. Like in 12 step, I learned to take what you like and leave the rest. Right. And so when he asked me if I'm a fan, huge fan, love his work, but I feel like I have a little bit of context, but, the idea. So I used to listen to some of his guided meditations, and there is something about, how he speaks when he leads meditations that doesn't really work for me.
Okay. Understood.
But I have friends who, like, I know this one guy who's been to like 6 of his events.
Yeah. There were 2,100 people there. And I mean, it was an advanced retreat. So you have to already have been an advanced student.
Yeah.
And I mean, most people there have been to several of his events. I mean,
I get it.
like, they're fans. I mean, it was really powerful. And
That's
what he
the thing.
does is he's able to get you have all the different brain states. So he's a teacher. He's a great teacher. And a
Great
great
teacher.
facilitator, a great entertainer,
Yeah.
and so knowledgeable. And just like he leads the whole thing. So he just does
Yeah.
such an amazing job. And you
It
have all
sounds like
these.
he facilitates an amazing experience, like a life altering. I have a friend who went, and it was so funny because I was introduced to Joe Dispenza several years ago, and I was like super into his stuff. And I'm always talking. I'm a learner, and I like my poor husband has to listen to everything that I'm learning. Bless his heart.
Right.
I was like, oh my god, all this stuff and blah blah blah. Well, and I think he largely is like, yeah, whatever. But he had this guy that he was sponsoring. My husband's been sober 37 years, long time. And he had been working with this guy for, I think he must have been in his early 20s when they started working together. So he's known him his whole adult life, basically.
Okay.
And this guy he'll never hear this. He was such a knucklehead for like the longest time. Just like, oh, this guy was such a knucklehead. That was his words, not mine. My husband's words.
Yeah.
Love him. But, he creates a lot of drama in his life. Anyway, he goes to this Joe Dispenza retreat, comes back. He is crushing it in his sales job. He meets this gal and he settles down and total. And he comes to me. He goes, "Have you heard of this Joe Dispenza guy?"
You're like,
yeah, I've been talking to you about. I've been telling you how amazing he is. But he saw the change in this man that he had known, for probably 20 or 30 years. such a dramatic change, like lost a bunch of weight. I mean, and he's been doing great for years now.
Right. Yeah, it's there's so many things that Dr. Joe says that are just so good. The way that he speaks and the way that he delivers, and it's like your personal reality creates, or wait, let's see,
Your personality creates your
creates your personal
yeah,
reality.
yeah. That's
And
all identity stuff. Yeah.
and it's kind of like if you're, the person you are today and the decisions you made, the choices, your actions, all the things that you do, how can you expect that person to have a different future?
Right.
It's like,
I think he was the one that introduced me to this idea of we are living in the residual of all of yesterday's decisions, right? Everything from my hair to the shirt I'm wearing to the desk I'm sitting at. Those were all decisions made a long time ago, and I'm living in the residual of yesterday's decisions. So that if I want to have a different outcome, I need to make different decisions today.
right.
Yeah, and a lot of it is based off of identity. And when you get sober, I saw myself as this party girl,
Yeah.
right? And so I was like, who am I if I'm not this fun, crazy, and wild girl, right? Who am I going to be then? And so it was, recovery for me was actually a process of like emerging, like allowing my true self to emerge without like people pleasing, without like I didn't even know what I liked, or do you know what I mean? Like I
Yeah.
was so
Yeah. You're
outwardly
so into
focused.
drugs and alcohol. It's just like everything has to change
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
discover who you really are.
To discover who you really are. Yeah. And it was about, instead of trying to figure things out on the outside, it was like, the difference between an external locus of control and an internal locus of control. It started with being able to follow my heart and pay attention to my body signals. Like when somebody presents you with a choice, a decision, like your body knows whether it's a hell yeah
Yeah.
or it's a no.
No. Yeah.
But we don't always listen to our body. We don't listen. I tend to like to rationalize and justify with my mind. Yeah, but like if I'm coming from a place of fear, I'm like, yeah, but maybe I'm not going to get what I want, or I'm going to lose what I have if I don't do this thing. My mind will talk myself out of the decision that my body already knows. And then when I make those decisions out of fear, I tend to have an experience that is really not in alignment with who I am or what I really wanted.
Right. 100%. So the last thing I'll say about the Joe Dispenza. So there were two things two big takeaways from this last 10-day retreat. The first is in when I got sober, I learned how to meditate. And
Okay.
so you've got prayer, talking to God, and really they're the foxhole prayers, right? And then you've got meditation, which is listening. And there's a step that's missing, and the step that's missing is getting to a place of blank space, no
Mm.
thoughts. And so he's brilliant at getting your brain to a different state. So you got the alpha, beta, gamma, delta, theta,
Mm-hmm.
not in that order. But so getting you to the right brain state so that you can actually get to a place of no thoughts before you start listening. So that's one of the
Interesting.
things that I got out of the retreat.
How long are those meditation sessions for? I hear they're like 10 hours, or is it really long?
Most of them are a couple hours.
Okay, not
Couple
bad.
hours. There's at the 7-day. I went to the 7-day in Dallas in April as well, and there was one meditation that was 4.5 hours or so.
Ooh.
Started at 4 a.m. Yeah, I mean it's crazy that he's able to keep you in there, and
Yeah.
it's just like you can do it, and it
Yeah.
doesn't. It seems like there's no time. It's
Yeah.
crazy. I mean, to be able
Yeah.
to do these meditations that are an hour and a half, 2.5 hours is just nuts.
So are you at the end of that? Like when he kind of brings you back to the present moment, has you open it? Does it feel like minutes, or did it feel like it was 2
It
hours?
doesn't feel like 2 hours, no.
Yeah.
And there's sitting, there's standing, there's walking, there's laying down, he does these pineal gland meditations where you're doing breath work and you're like basically getting your body you're getting your default mode network to quiet down is what happens, which is what happens with psychedelics, is that you're getting your default mode network to quiet down. So he does that through his different
Meditations and
meditations and
exercises.
so forth. And the other thing that I took away from this last retreat was abundance. So I always think of
Mm.
abundance, and I journal every morning, and I talk, and when I think of abundance in terms of material things. I used to.
Money, yeah,
Typically money. I mean, it's always related to money,
yeah,
finances and money. But why do I want finances, and why do I
right,
want freedom of finance? Why do I want money? Because I want to be happy, right? I want freedom. And so really, he taught me that really what I want is an abundance of immaterial things. I
yeah,
want an abundance of time. I want an abundance of freedom, abundance of experiences, an abundance of intimate relationships, an abundance of laughter. Like these are the things that I really want. And it's like,
yeah.
oh, so when I say I want abundance in my life, those are really the things that I want.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny because that money's just a vehicle to something else, and it's virtually just a barrier, so if it's the yeah, "What do you want it for?" And it's like, "Oh, well, I wanna have" like, sometimes things boil down to, "I wanna have peace, I wanna have joy," and it's like, "Well, okay, well, just have those things. You don't need to put all these obstacles between you and the experience."
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Money's just the obstacle. It's like,
Yeah. It can be a facilitator.
it
I'm not gonna
can be.
lie. I
And
like the
hey,
money.
I still want an abundance of money, and it's going to give me more options, and I'm going to be able to
Yeah.
do more things.
Yeah.
But really, the reason why I want it is because I think it's going to get me to the other things that I really want.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so your site, so getting away from Joe Dispenza, your site says you specialize in smart, busy, professional women, but we just talked about this.
Does my site still say that? Damn, I need to update that.
That's
Yeah.
what well, this is what AI found this, so I'm not sure. So I guess let's talk about that. I mean, my question is, what unique pressures or challenges do people in that demographic face when trying to quit drinking? Smart, busy, professional women, but really, your audience is much larger than that. So
Yeah, I don't know what happened, but recently I have, like, this influx of, male clients, right? And I think because of who I am and, my past experience in tech and stuff that I have a set of I've always sort of, like, connected well with, like, high achievers.
okay,
Right? People who are hyper responsible. So they tend to subjugate and delay their own gratification. They work really hard, and and I've been talking a lot about this thing called the striver's dilemma. That term was actually popularized by a Harvard professor, Arthur Brooks. Did you have a question?
the Shriver's dilemma.
Strivers, like people who
Shriver.
constantly striving,
Okay. I've
right?
never heard of the
Like,
Shriver's dilemma. So keep going.
yeah,
Yeah.
Arthur Brooks to popularize this idea about the striver's dilemma, people who are always seeking, ambitious, creative, have a tendency to fall to workaholism, burnout, never good enough, things like that. The way he presented it was there's people who work their whole lives and achieve, and then they get to retirement and they're like, who am I? Right? Like they've put off delayed gratification to the end and they're like, who am I? But I thought, I'm not there yet, but I considered myself, I'm a self help junkie, I'm a striver, I'm an achiever, you know, I'm all those things. And I have found that I sort of go into like this workaholism burnout cycle. And I'm like, what is going on? And I realized with this, all the work that I do that there are a lot of us who have like lots of projects, lots of ideas, and we're always, creating and developing and we want to
Well, they call
help
it
and
the respectable addiction.
yeah, workaholism. Yeah, I actually just did an episode, I recorded that this week with Dr. Dawn Nichols. And so she's a founder of She Recovers. And we were talking about this respectable addiction. Like everybody like praises you for your hustle and what you can achieve and stuff. And I find that people that are in recovery who sort of fall into this demographic are often struggling with the same things. Like we know what to do, but we can't get ourselves to do it. Right. Like, and it's coming from this place of not good enough. Right. And I would consider fear and this feeling of not good enough. Like people use achievement to sort of fill the hole, right? The void. And we use our achievements to point to our worthiness, like whether it's money, achievement, whatever. But it's a trap, right? Because there's nothing that's going to fill the void. There's no achievement because most of us, when we achieve something, like, how long do you celebrate it, right?
Yeah.
We go, "Oh, don't rest on your laurels. On to the next thing."
Like 3 minutes.
Yeah. We have difficulty receiving, but, you know, the dilemma is that we want to figure it out, which is an intellectual psychology perspective, right? And it's based on fear that there's something wrong with me. It's based on a belief that I'm broken and something's wrong with me, as opposed to, and that's kind of like living below the line, so to speak. And living above the line means that we're using a cleaner fuel source, which is along the lines of love and creativity and inspiration and joy, engagement. Like when I'm doing activities in that realm, it's energizing, like, I don't burn out over that stuff.
Right.
And so I've just noticed that a lot because I'm working on this for myself, I seem to attract people that are like me who are also really wanting to find the balance between being creative and striving and accomplishing, but doing it from a place of love and inspiration as opposed to doing it from fear and not good enough. Does that make sense?
No, it totally does. I went to a trauma intensive with a woman named Tara Holbrook in Idaho, actually. And one of the things, she's brilliant. Her program is amazing.
I was gonna say her name sounds so familiar.
Yeah, she's I think I'll remember the name of her program, but she's just outside of Boise. So her program it's amazing. She's an amazing facilitator. She's very well known. But I one of the things that, that I learned, and I kind of already knew, but I learned was that I have so many achievements in my life, and those achievements come from anger.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it's like something happens, and it doesn't come out as anger. It just comes out as drive and motivation, and that's how I am able to achieve these massive things. And I realize that drive and motivation is not healthy. And, what I learned from her is that I don't need to be angry I can live my life and achieve things, not because of anger. That
Yeah, yeah, that's the dirty fuel source, yeah.
Right. The dirty fuel source. Exactly. So that was like
Yeah,
what I thought of when you said that.
yeah. And it's so interesting because, I think there is a natural tendency to wanna figure things out, right? Like, I had just noticed a pattern in myself that I would feel some sort of fear or anxiety, and which would be the trigger. So there's a trigger behavior and an outcome, right? And so my trigger is if I'm in fear, and in my brain, the solution is always money. I just need to make more money.
Money. Okay. People that say money can't buy happiness haven't given enough of it away.
Oh,
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah, yeah, that's really
So
good.
yeah, there's that. But I mean, like to your point, I agree. Money gives you options. You got a lot. You
It
have
gives
more
you
options with money.
options. Yeah, but it's all relative. Like, I was having a discussion with my husband today. It's like, I had this friend who was, his business was generating a couple $1,000,000 a year, and he was stressed out about money, because my husband's like, "Oh, I wanna make sure that we're able to retire and blah, blah, blah." And I was like, we're like, we have no debt. We have lots of money. Like, we're good.
Yeah,
Like, we're
we're
dude,
fine.
calm down. Yeah, yeah, but my friend was stressed out because his friends are making $100,000,000 a year, and
Right.
so by comparison, right, it's the thief of joy,
Comparison is the thief
he's
of
feeling
joy.
like he didn't have enough security, and, and that's all future tripping, right? Like, fear is often, future-based, and if we just think about what's going on right here, right now, everything's fine. Like,
Yeah,
everything's
like
beautiful,
I'm
in
good.
fact,
Like
right? Yeah, for a
gonna
lot of
be
us.
okay.
Yeah, there's lots that even if things are not great, there's always things that we can be grateful for. And so that's living above the line. And so really, if you're a striver, if you can come from this place of creativity, it's really about trust, right? Trust in a higher power, trust in the universe, and create from that place, like what brings you joy, which if you're following your inner compass, what's really true for you, what's the full body us feel like, sound like, look like. Then if we're creating from that place, and that's energizing, and that's living in alignment with your true purpose, with who you really are, and that's an entirely different place to live on than thinking, I need money so that I can be happy, or I'm not good enough until I make a lot of money, or I must not be worthy because what I'm creating isn't generating money. Like that's all below the line and fear-based.
Yeah.
And when we're afraid, we can't access your creative mind because you're in fear, you're in survival mode. So, a lot of my work is helping people live above the line and really use logic to quiet the fears, right? Because a lot of the fears are not logical, actually. They're exaggerated.
Very real.
Yeah. Yeah. False evidence appearing real. Yeah. Or as we sometimes say, fuck everything and run.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
That's the other one.
Yeah.
But yeah. So that's really the work I have been focusing. I'm really good with the getting sober. It's really about systems. Like 12 step is a system, right? If you follow the system works, right? The system doesn't work.
It doesn't work if you don't. It's like if you follow the program, it works.
Yeah. Yeah. But for people who can't, my question is always why, like what's going on? What's going on there? And really that's why I wrote the book, The 12-Step Guide for Skeptics, because it's really about offering. I'm not interested in arguing with anybody. There's lots of people who want to argue, like, is AA a cult or not? Or is it religious or not? It's like, I'm not interested in having those discussions. It's like, if you're curious about it and you're open-minded to seeing things in a different way, because, at the end of the day, the program, not me, I'm not talking about meetings and programs are two separate things. Like the program is the steps. People confuse meetings with AA, it's anyway, but there's a path around every obstacle, right? So if you work the system the way it was designed and you have a guide who can sort of help you navigate challenges, then what you get on the other side of that is like this spiritual experience, this transformative experience. It cannot be. I used to say that it was like trying to explain an orgasm to somebody who's never had one, right? It's like, it's something you have to experience. It's not something that can be described to you.
Right.
You have to do it yourself. Yeah.
Like trying to describe the way that chocolate tastes.
There you go. That's a little more G-rated, of course. Mine goes straight for the gutter. Sorry.
Okay, so tell me about the 12-step guide for skeptics. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so really this was just sort of like my offering to just be like, hey, if you're a skeptic, but you're curious about why this program has worked for millions of people for like the last 90 years, if you need a program that's free,
right?
If you need a community, here's how to navigate it. Because there are some definite pitfalls to look at. I'm not saying it's perfect by any stretch, right? Like it's got some problems, but the problems are actually, I'm going to give you an example of a problem. It's not really a problem. People go to a meeting and there's somebody there that's like, you got to do 90 meetings in 90 days and you have to get a sponsor and you have to blah, blah, blah. And they rattle off about 50 things that you have to do, right? And so people walk away from that. They're all vulnerable or it's like, I've even heard that some people go to meetings and they're like, you have to accept Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior. People are like,
right.
They flee. And they're like, or they hear things like alcoholic or powerless and they're like, absolutely not. And so that happens. And so what I am saying is that the people are funny because, listen, it's not the hotbed of mental health, but I heard this analogy, like a gemologist will take two rough amethysts and put them in a tumbler together. And as they tumble, they knock off their rough edges, right? And they come out smooth. And that's kind of like how the fellowship is sometimes. You go into these rooms and you mix it up with these people with their rough edges and you got your own rough edges. What's that?
And they all got rough edges.
We all got rough edges, right? Especially in the beginning. Yeah. But if you look for the people who have a long-term sobriety, they're smooth. Like they're peaceful. They are grounded. Like you cannot rock them. They don't get triggered, right? Like I like to say that under every trigger is a treasure, right? And what that means is that like if you have a sponsor, if somebody upsets you at a meeting, you take it to your sponsor and the sponsor, helps you to like the 4-step is great because it helps you to break it all down. Like what is really happening here? Like what are you specifically resentful at? What is being affected in you? And then what is your part? Right? And that's where the light bulb typically comes on and you're just like, oh, I thought they were jerks. Turns out I provoked them and they were just having an appropriate response to me being an idiot. It's like,
Right.
but when you're angry, you can't see it.
Yeah.
So, it helps you to kind of smooth out. Like if you have the courage to sort of lean in to the things that you want to run from, like what are we avoiding? What feeling are you avoiding? If you can kind of lean into that and deconstruct it, then it no longer has power over you,
Right.
right? That trigger has been deactivated.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And being sober, being a sober person, we get to experience all the feelings, not
Yeah.
just the good ones.
Yeah, you get to feel better. You get to feel anger better. You get to feel sad better. You get to feel joy better. You get to feel love better. You get to feel peace better.
Yeah, everything's
Yeah.
great. I had a Jason Campbell on my podcast recently, and he's a meditation expert, teacher, whatever. That's one of the things he does, and he talks about you have to have the negative emotions. So it's like you have your baseline, you've got your happiness, joy, laughter, love, and then you've got anger, sadness, pain. And if you don't have anger, sadness, pain, loneliness, then that's what makes the happiness and the joy and the laughter feel so much better.
Contrast. Yeah.
It's like it's like the yin and the yang. You have to have all of them.
Well, yeah. And by the way, human, right? Like, good luck not having those other things.
Well, if you numb out, then that's how you get around having those feelings.
Yeah, but you can only, as we know, you can only numb out for so long.
That's true.
I could drink and still be sad, as it turns out. That's when I had these two alter egos when I was drinking. It was either Wimpy Wendy or Badass Betsy because I was either crying or fighting.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, so you can be loaded and still be miserable.
Yeah, you can be 100%. Let's talk about recovery coaching, hypnosis, self-esteem, and transformative work. So you're a certified hypnotist and recovery coach.
Yeah.
So how do those skills complement traditional recovery methods?
Well, what's so interesting, you were mentioning the different brainwave states before. So a normal cognitive awake, we're alpha brainwaves, right? We're both awake, we're talking, have a conversation. And then there is the theta brainwave state. So that's like the brainwave state that you get into when you're really relaxed but awake, right? That's like the meditative state. And what's interesting about the theta brainwave state is that you cross something called the critical factor, right? The critical factor sort of lies between these two brainwave states. And the critical factor is sort of like the filter, right? That filters out what you believe is important, right? So like they say that at any given time, we have like 6 million bits of information coming at us at all times. But like, if I asked you, you're probably not thinking about the pressure under your feet right now, right? Until you put your attention on it. So your subconscious mind is sort of deciding what you focus on, what you're paying attention to. So if you have this belief system that you're not good enough, that all men are evil, all women are evil, do you know what I mean? It's like you have this limiting belief, then your lens, your subconscious mind is filtering out all the evidence so that it reconfirms your belief, right? It's confirmation bias. You have a belief and then your brain just looks for evidence to support that. What's interesting about meditation is that in sobriety, there are no solutions. There are just trade-offs, right? So we have, a drinking solution and then you get sober and then you have to have a sober solution, like 12 steps, something like that. Well, what we're talking about is changing these limiting beliefs, right? And getting to the subconscious mind to sort of reprogram those limiting beliefs. And it's helpful to sort of know what they are, right? I love that you do the, Joe Dispenza, 5-hour meditations and things like that. There's also, hypnosis is interesting because in therapy, it takes about 20 sessions to get to the rapport and to create the safety required to start changing some of those subconscious belief systems. That's a long time.
Yeah.
That's a lot of investment. Yeah. And so in practices like hypnosis, you get somebody to an awakened, relaxed state where you can start to replace these negative limiting beliefs with positive, constructive ones. And so I have found that work to be hugely helpful because it's an inside out solution as opposed to an outside in. Like figuring it out is sort of an top-down, outside-in solution where things like meditation, hypnosis, those are inside. That's root cause.
Mm-hmm.
We're trying to address root cause. Like a lot of trauma therapy is about addressing root cause. Where did these beliefs come from? It's like negative experiences in childhood. They say that all your beliefs about the world and who you are established between ages 6 and 8. But if you think about it, that's like allowing an 8-year-old to make decisions for you, which sounds crazy, right? Like
Right.
that's not logical. So it's important to make the space and time and have a facilitator help you to sort of access those and start trading those out, swapping those negative belief systems for positive ones. And it helps to have a facilitator because, as they say, you can't read the label from inside the jar, right? Like when you're in it, you're blind to the mechanisms and subconscious beliefs that are actually driving your life.
So, in your experience, how central is rebuilding self-esteem and inner worth to long-term sobriety,
I
especially
mean,
for
for me,
people coming from trauma or deep shame?
yeah, I think it's so important to do that self-esteem. What we're really talking about, in brain science, they call it the default mode network, which is very tied to your identity, right? And so you can think of it as your brain's operating system. How is your brain operating? And so if it's been operating from these negative limiting beliefs and identity, like people think, oh, I'm a procrastinator, I'm a drug addict, I'm a bad person, I'm not good enough. These are all identity, and they're not necessarily based in truth or reality. And the truth of the matter is that we can change. We can grow and develop and change and evolve. And so I think it's so important, especially, and I think the steps are great for that. I'm an and girl, right? Steps and. So I think there's ways to accelerate, like, who is it that you want to be? Like, what actually brings you joy? What actually inspires you? It's that process of emerging and being honest with yourself about who you really like, what you like to do, what brings you joy. Like that's a process, and that's about reinventing your identity, but rebuilding self-esteem. And I came to this conclusion that we only allow into our lives what we believe we deserve on a subconscious level. So when someone comes to me complaining about a relationship, I never talk about the other person. I talk about what it is about you that you believe that you deserve to be treated that way. It has nothing to do with them. It's all about us.
Yeah, and I think 90% of transformation is awareness.
It is. Yeah.
So the first
And
thing
the
is
awareness
aware.
comes when I don't know if you, tell me if you have seen this too, but a lot of times the awareness comes once we feel safe enough to face the truth. And that often comes in the presence of someone who is loving and supportive. It's easier to face the truth about yourself when you
Yeah,
look into the eyes of compassion.
I can get on board with that. Yeah, because I know there's people that I can think of that are, they're oblivious or they just don't have any awareness. And I could see that being true, that if they felt safe, that they would be more open and willing to really like to pay attention to what's really going on.
Yeah. Yeah. And it helps to have somebody who's loving and supportive that won't let you go spin out too far into the negative. Like I had sponsors, you do in the 4-step and you realize, I realized what a jerk I had been. And she's like, no, 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 don't, don't take it too far. It's like, yes, it was a mistake, but keep in mind that you had this trauma that you were carrying. And so out of fear, you behaved badly. It wasn't just because you're a bad person. You were afraid. You had been traumatized, and that helped me feel safe and not take it too far the other way too.
Yeah. I remember when I celebrated 5 years of sobriety, everybody said to me, "Congratulations, you're no longer a newcomer." I was like, "What are you talking about? I've been
If
here, I'm an
you.
old timer, right?" I thought I was an old timer. And you think about that, it takes time to
Yeah.
become a different person. And to your point earlier, it's a process, it's a journey, and I do need to act as if, and I need to surround myself with new people, different people, new hobbies, new interests, new like my whole life had to change. And the thing about spending my time with people that I want to be like is that when I first get sober, the people that I want to be like probably don't want to spend time with me. So it's kind of like it's a process, you continue leveling up the people that I spend more time with, or they continue leveling up as well if we're all in recovery and working.
Yeah, the nice thing about the 12-step recovery programs is service, and carrying the message is a big part of that, right? So they're sort of obligated to hang out with you and help you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I know being a sponsor and working in the business it's always, wow, that could be me, or wow, that used to
Yeah.
be me, or wow, that could be me if, so it used to be me, could be me, or dang, I'm glad that's not me.
Yeah, yeah, and, somebody was there for me
Uh-huh.
when I was like that, right? So there is, like, this big responsibility of passing it along, step 12.
Yep. There's the message. So many people deeply resist labels like alcoholic or the spiritual framing of this 12 steps. How do you help people reframe those in a way that feels authentic and non-shameful?
So, it was interesting when I first got sober, listen, in 1994, there really wasn't anything else,
Mhm.
right? And I didn't have money for therapy, so it's like I needed I needed to go to this place. I didn't even know about rehab back in the day. I know that there was, but I didn't know about it. And I go to these meetings and people are talking about God, and I was so crestfallen. I was like, if this is what it is, I'm not gonna be able to do it. And this gal was like, "Oh, don't worry about it. There's a way around that." She's like, "It's not a thing. Don't worry about it." And she's like handed me a piece of paper, and she's like, "Okay, on one side, write down all the attributes. If let's just for funsies, if there is a God or was a God or whatever, write down all the attributes that you want God to have." So I was like, "Okay, so all powerful, all loving, I'm the favorite, like all those kinds of things." And then she's like, "Okay, on the other side, what you wouldn't want it to be." And I was like, "Judgmental, condemning, just all this stuff." And when I was done, she was like, "Okay, are you done?" I handed her my piece of paper, and she tore it in half. And she gave me the positive side, and she's like, "We're just gonna start with this." And I was like, "That's it?" She's like, "That's it."
That's
I
it.
was like, "Oh my
Brilliant.
god." The God problem solved. Like, that was all I needed to just make a little more progress. Yeah, I've just come to understand that words are just symbols, and we get to define what they actually mean. Like, I've heard that if you have a problem with God, you probably have a problem with someone else's God. Right? And that was my case. I had a problem with my childhood God, and I didn't even know that you could redefine it. Like, that was news to me.
I used to think I grew up in Christian household, and uncles are ministers, and so
Oh
lots
my
of
god.
Christianity in my family. And then
Yeah.
I went to school, and I went to UC Davis, and there were all of these people and all of these different religions, and everybody thought that everybody else was going to hell. And for me, that was my way of saying that doesn't make sense.
Doesn't make
I'm
any
not going to believe
sense.
in anything. So I become an atheist. And that was for a period of time until I got sober. And then I realized it's, to your point, my God, I can be spiritual. It can be God. It can be a chair. It can be the universe. It can be anything, but there's definitely something that's more powerful than Tim.
Yeah.
And
I
that,
mean, even two of us together is more powerful than me by myself.
right, right.
Yeah, there's a way around all these obstacles. Another big obstacle is people see the word powerless and they freak out. They're like, "But I feel like I had this one gal tell me I couldn't go to 12 step because I read the steps and I saw powerless and I felt like I had a little bit of power. And so it didn't feel authentic or honest if I went there." And I go, "You do realize it's over alcohol. Like, it's powerless over alcohol, not everything." It's like you threw out the entire program because you misunderstood powerless. Like, I was like, "Oh man, what a like, that makes me so sad." She missed out on community. She missed out on the 4 step is really, about breaking your limiting thinking. It's a very pragmatic, practical process, right? And man, just a misunderstanding of a single word kept her out. It was just made me really sad.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's we all have a journey. So um
Yeah.
it's like she figured it out when she was supposed to figure it out, you know?
True. Yeah. Really true.
Yeah. Yeah. So, for listeners who've tried everything before, therapy, willpower, cutting down, what's the biggest misconception keeping them stuck according to your coaching experience?
Well, listen, first of all, if someone feels like they've tried everything, I have a lot of compassion for somebody like that, right? Because it is so frustrating to feel like you have tried everything and nothing is working. Like I would consider that to be like a really, powerless, unmanageable place to be. But I I have this analogy. Have you ever heard of the law of 51%? I'll just describe it in case you have. So think about a scale, right? A weight scale. And every time you make an attempt or learn something new or even have a painful experience that you can get a positive lesson from, that's tipping the scale on the positive side. And what's interesting is you only need 51% to tip the scale. So I just want to point out that if you've been trying and trying and trying, you're actually way closer to tipping the scales than you realize,
Yeah.
right? And to just keep going, to keep trying, because hope is hearing other people's experiences. There are other people who struggle with what you're struggling and who have found a solution. And so sometimes just hearing the solution over and over again, hearing how people struggle and how they overcame can be enough to help you tip the scales for yourself.
100%. Love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Help is available.
Help is available. So, what's next for Sober Life School or the work that you're doing? New program, new approaches, new audiences?
Yeah, so I've really been I think this next year I'm pivoting more towards people in corporate, people like the high achievers. It just is real like I'm not it's been a long time since I struggled with the day one, right? Like I had the systems and I do help people with that phase, but I think this next year, if I'm going to be really honest, the kind of clients that really light me up and energize me are the people who are really trying to solve the striver's dilemma, people who still want to be achieving and creative, but want to do it from a place of love and joy. It's this feeling of being a procrastinator, workaholic, burnout, being overwhelmed, feeling like, you know what it is? It's feeling like there's a missing piece
Hmm.
that's keeping you from a breakthrough. Like those are the people that I like to work with because a simple shift in learning how to live above the line
Hmm.
from coming from that place, creating from a place of love is really the shift that we're not broken. There's nothing wrong with us. We probably just have the wrong systems and we need to operate from a place of love. And that's what really helps people like achieve those goals that have really been eluding them sometimes for decades.
Yeah, yeah. It's like operating from fear, guilt, and shame it doesn't
Yeah.
feel good, and there's so much more possible if you're
Yeah.
operating above the line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it.
So if you could send a message to someone listening right now who feels hopeless and stuck, what would you say to them to anchor hope and possibility?
Yeah. I would just say, see things as they are. And what that means, it's not catastrophizing, but it's really looking for the truth, which is there is a solution to every problem. There is somebody out there that has overcome the very specific, unique circumstances that you're in. Like, we are not terminally unique. Like, we all are suffering from the same human condition. At the end of the day, it all kind of boils down to the same thing. So, seek and ye shall find, right? So just keep seeking. The answer is out there.
Is there anything that I missed?
Oh, that's a great question. I don't think so. I think you did a great job.
Okay. And where can people find more about you? How can they connect with you? Give me
Yeah, the easiest place to find me is soberlifeschool.com. People can also connect with me on Instagram at Arlina Allen. Those are probably the two easiest places. If you go to Sober Life School, you have questions for me, you can put time on my calendar. I'm happy to talk to anybody, even if it's just coming up with a strategy, a system that you might be able to implement. Because the truth of the matter is there's nothing broken. We just have the wrong systems. And so sometimes we just need to figure out what the right system is.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Arlina, it's been a pleasure having you here. Thank you so much for your time.
So fun. You're a great interviewer. It was super fun.
Yeah, this was great. And to everyone, thanks for listening. I'll see you on the next episode. Thanks so much for listening to I Love Being Sober. I hope you got something valuable from today's episode. And if you're looking for more resources on recovery, mental health, or any of the therapies we talk about, head over to camelbackrecovery.com. You can find more episodes, blog posts, and ways to connect. Until next time, take care of yourself, keep growing, and keep living a kick-ass sober life.